Hey guys, wanted to do a tag. Angela from the Literature Science Alliance tagged me in the Get to Know Your Sci-Fi Reader tag. And I like to say that I'm more of a sci-fi reader than a fantasy reader, but a lot of times I read more fantasy than I do sci-fi, just because there's so much I'm trying to get caught up to date on everything with. And there's such a huge back history of sci-fi that's good and some that's bad that I'm just really trying to figure out what I want to read there and how I'm going to access that level of sci-fi history. So I'm going to go ahead and do these questions. I'm so thankful that she tagged me in this tag because it's a really cool tag, and I'm ready to talk about it. So number one, what is your sci-fi origin story? So for me, growing up as a kid, the sci-fi stories that interested me the most were Animorphs and X-Men comics. X-Men, they're mutants. They're genetically different than everybody else, and it gives them superpowers. Sometimes it makes them drastically different physically, and that was kind of the in for me. And then Animorphs, they meet an alien. The alien makes them touch this magic box, and then they're able to change into any animal that they touch. Really interesting, really cool, easy to read. Same thing with the comics. They're nice, fun, easy to read. You could read them in a day or two. And then I got into stuff like Dune and Ender's Game and other stories like that really just made my love of sci-fi grow and grow and grow and grow. Number two, the question is, if you could be the hero or the heroine in your story, a sci-fi story, who would be the author? And then what is one trope that you would love to have in there? So for me, the trope I'd love to have is that I would be an android and I didn't know it. So I'm moving through the world and I'm an android, and all of a sudden, the shocking revelation happens. I find out I'm actually a robot. An author that I'm really enjoying their work is Alastair Reynolds, and I'd like to read some more of his books. I read Terminal World, and I've got Revelation Space. Hopefully I read this real soon. But I've heard he does great space operas, and his standalones are really, really good that I've enjoyed so far. And the way he does characters in a sci-fi story was really, really good and interesting as well. In this next question, actually speaking of Alastair Reynolds, question 3, what is a sci-fi book that you read this year that you'd like more people to know about or read? And that would be Terminal World by Alastair Reynolds. It was an amazing standalone sci-fi book. Basically, there's this giant tower, and everybody's on these different rings. And the rings have different levels of technology. So at the very, very top, the celestial levels, you've got this high-end technology. And then as you go down, you're losing technology. And you get down to the bottom, and basically horsepower is the only technology that works there. Really interesting, cool way that they told the story. Things get shuffled up, have to leave the tower, and then come back to the tower. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And it's a standalone, so you don't feel like you have to jump into this long series. Question 4, what is your favorite subgenre of sci-fi, and what is a subgenre that you have not read a lot from? For me, my favorite subgenre would be first contact, like the first time you meet aliens, like, hey, we're just fledgling humans kind of making our way out into the solar system, or we're on Earth and aliens come and see us, either good or bad, like, hey, they're helpful, or hey, they want to kill us and take us over. Either one, I enjoy both of those. This first contact with aliens, kind of something that happened with Sphere, where in the very beginning he was asked to do a psychological profile of humans when they meet aliens, and said no matter what situation we would be in, we would be mind-numbingly frightened. We would be so afraid of this interaction of something so foreign to us that some of us would be paralyzed with fear. Others would react immediately with that fight or flight instinct and fight. Really cool thought process he had there with something so foreign to us would immediately make us afraid of it. And I really find that very, very interesting. And books that have a first contact are very cool for me. And then the subgenre that I almost never read from is sci-fi horror, but I would really like to. The idea of like a dead spaceship and you're trying to make your way out of it or something like that. Those kind of things really interest me, and I'd like to learn a lot more about them and read about them. So if you have any good recommendations, throw me one in the comments. Number 5, name one of your auto-buy authors in the sci-fi genre. For me, I don't have anybody that I'd say I'm auto-buy. There's some that I really, really enjoy. I might say Douglas Adams, maybe because the things that I've read from him are very funny, and I like funny sci-fi. I think they're very, very enjoyable. But I don't own everything he has, and there's some things that he has that I just kind of look at and I go, I don't know if I want. I just don't know. It's one of those where I think that I would be an auto buy with certain authors, and then I'll see something they put out, and I'm like, that doesn't sound very interesting to me. Maybe I'm just too temperamental. I don't know. Number 6, how do you find your sci-fi recommendations? BookTube and Reddit. BookTube has been such a blessing. Honestly, BookTube makes me have a TBR that's unmanageable, which is a good thing in my opinion. There was a time when I did not know what I was going to read next, and I'd go into the bookstore and I'd go, I don't know if this is good. I don't know if this is good. I don't know if this is good. And I would pick things off the shelves and not like them. And then I'd get afraid and I'd go reread books I'd already read 3 times. So BookTube, I can take a good opinion from somebody and go, all right, yeah, this sounds really, really good. Sounds like something I would like. Other things that they've recommended, I've enjoyed. And then Reddit, I did not know about Reddit until probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And they have subreddits for cool sci-fi covers, really bad sci-fi covers, cool sci-fi on its own, and then you can join like the individual book series Reddit sub. I mean, there's so much on Reddit that you can find, and like people are willing to break it down for you. And then if you break it down, they are willing to chew you out and say you're wrong. I don't really comment much on Reddit, but I do like browsing it. Number 7, what is a sci-fi release that you're really excited for? I have no idea. I all the sci-fi that I've read is like 3, 4, 5 years old, or even older, like 10, 15, 20 years old. The one that might be is the final book of The Expanse. I'm not caught up. I need to read book 2. I've only read book 1, but I know the final book in the series, book 9, is coming up, and I'm probably going to read all the way through the series because I enjoyed book 1 so much. Unless it just gets really, really bad, and I've heard it stays this quality all the way through. So I'd probably say that is the sci-fi release I'm excited for, but I'm probably not going to read it until like 2023. But if you have anything that you're really, really excited for, go ahead and leave me a comment down below, and maybe I can go check that one out and see what I think about it. What is a common misconception about sci-fi that you would like to lay to rest? I would like to lay to rest the idea that it's just for nerds. A lot of time people that read fantasy kind of look at it and go, oh, well, you have to be like a mathematician to read this book, or you have, I don't know, like, it's going to be above my head. I won't understand it. And a lot of times, books like that, they actually go out of their way to make it understandable. They'll break it down. Dark Matter did that really, really well. It was a lot of fun. Sphere by Michael Crichton. He actually goes through, when they go through like the technical jargon of diving and living in a deep sea environment, he actually has your protagonist fall asleep. Kind of like, whatever, man, I don't care about this. And so it was a great way for him to say, look, the science of it isn't always the most important. We're going to be down there. There's going to be reasons, scientifically reasons, that we need to understand. And then he'll explain them to us later because we fell asleep. The protagonist fell asleep. So a lot of authors do it in a very fun way. A lot of authors do it in a way where it's easy to understand, because most of these authors are not scientists. They're authors who study science to write science fiction because they enjoy it. Number 9, if someone has never read sci-fi and they're coming to me for a recommendation, and I'm like, here's 3 books that I think you should give a shot, I would probably say, well, what are you into? So if you're heavy into fantasy and you just want something that is as much like fantasy as you can get, I would say probably something like Frankenstein. It would kind of give you that classic vibe as well. It's very low on the sci-fi elements, but it is a sci-fi story, and it's a lot of fun. And Mary Shelley did a really good job writing that story, and it's a story where you can empathize with Frankenstein. It's a good story. I like it. And a lot of times I would say books that the movies were based on, like Jurassic Park. Michael Crichton did a really great job with Jurassic Park, and everybody knows that movie. It's part of our culture that we just know Jurassic Park. So you would feel very familiar in that story. Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is funny, and that humor will bring you into the story, and it's kind of radical, so there's not a whole lot of science in it. We're flying through space, but there's not a lot of technical jargon. And for a younger audience, I would say Ender's Game. It is set about children going to war in space. So it's a very fun fun one. And if you like thrillers, I would say go with Dark Matter. Dark Matter is really, really good. I know that's 5 books, but um, there's such a huge scope of sci-fi that it really depends on who you are. So if anybody has like, hey, give me your recommendation, let me know in the comments what you're into, and I'll give you a recommendation because I'd love to go through great sci-fi books to give you. I enjoy doing that. And then the last and final question is to tag someone that you know is into sci-fi and you've come across recently. So the one guy I really want to tag in this one, and I know he'll really enjoy it, he's more of a military sci-fi guy, would be Unity151. He reads almost exclusively sci-fi, and Scott really enjoys doing sci-fi, so I'd like to tag him if he hasn't done it. He may have already done it. But Unity151 and Scott would be my choices there. Thank you guys for watching this tag video. I'm really excited for what's coming up in the future on the channel. I'm hopefully do some breakdowns on some sci-fi and hopefully explain some things. I've done a few on some fantasy magic systems, and I'd love to do some on some sci-fi. And if you guys are interested in any of that, please subscribe to the channel. I also have a Twitter. You can follow me on Goodreads or any of those other YouTube-friendly places that you would follow me on. Discord link down below where we can chat about stuff and do buddy reads. So yeah, that's all I've got. Have fun reading a book today, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.